Our next presenter is Mrs. Natalie Paul-Harry. Natalie, over her career, has worked at TIDCO, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Investment, and as well as with us at ExportTT, in the field of export promotion development, which is responsible for export development and the coordination of internal trade missions on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. She has coordinated several international trade missions and has worked on country promotion projects in Europe, USA, China, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Natalie is also familiar with the technical aspects of international trade and has previously worked as a trade certification officer involved in processing applications for duty-free access under CARICOM bilateral trade agreements. Join me in welcoming this morning Natalie to give you an overview of the Suriname market.
Thank you very much, Maria, and good morning to everyone. It's my privilege to present to you this morning. Before I start, I'd just like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the work of our team during the market survey visit, which included not just 2 exportTT officers, but for the first time, a representative from the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, the TTMA. And the representative was Ms. Renee Penko. Could she just give us a wave? I want to thank her for her invaluable contribution during our market survey visit. Thank you, Renee. Okay, so this morning we'll start off on Suriname, our market survey visit to Suriname. The agenda will follow primarily what my colleague would have covered earlier with respect to, so that we're going to look at the market characteristics, what is unique about Suriname. We're going to speak to the market access issues, import, health requirements. We're going to have a product and service overview. The question may be asked, why are we focusing on these specific products? ExportTT went through an evaluation process to shortlist export products to be promoted in international markets. There were several criteria, and including being one of the priority products for promotion or for investment as well from the government's perspective. But the 2 key criteria were products where there are high volumes of export from Trinidad and Tobago, as well as there is a growing demand for the product in international markets. Just to give an example, Trinidad and Tobago used to be a major exporter of garments in years gone by. Now most garment products are coming from China, so that garments is not one of the products on our priority product list. So this is ideally how we would have come up with the list. We are currently revising that list. You are invited to comment, and we want you to also give us a rationale as to why the products should be included in the product list. We are also including services as well, and as we mentioned, just to get some of our service meetings in the markets were a bit of a challenge. We're going to also look at some of the products and services identified of interest from Trinidad and Tobago, and that would follow with our conclusions. In terms of market characteristics, we know that one of the key products or major exports from Suriname is gold. And we know about the volatility in the prices of gold, and it is said that when the price is low, there is a perception that the economy is bad, so that both consumers and investors, they tighten up. Some investors even send their monies off to countries like Miami, US Miami, to secure as a shelter. Because of that traditional relationship with Holland, we know that Suriname recently achieved independence just over 20 years ago, so they're relatively new in terms of an independent nation. But because of that traditional relationship, a lot of products are still sourced from not just Holland, but from the wider European markets. So that, as you know, European products are high-quality products, and as such, the market demands high-quality products. With respect to when you export your product to the market, you face inland charges, charges at the border, and we're talking about charges like your bunkering, your clearing charges. In the Suriname markets, it's higher than in any other CARICOM market. We didn't have any official statistics to support the next point, but general feedback was that there is a small high-income group, a relatively large low middle-income group, and of course the largest group would be that of the low income in the market. There is no anti-TNT sentiment literally on the ground, but when we speak to the regulators in the market, they're a bit wary and they're concerned about balancing the trade. I mean, we export considerable amounts of energy products to the market, so they want to ensure that there's some kind of balance in the trade. We had a local TTMA launching a few years ago, the Buy Local campaign, 100% tried and true, and several manufacturers had it posted on their trucks and so on. And Suriname has a similar campaign that they're executing at this time, so that companies are invited to receive the standards mark made in Suriname to differentiate their products from the imported products. Market segments. Yes, we have Europeans in the market and we have other groups in the market, but the key segments are the Chinese, the Javanese, the Indians, the Africans. And here we're speaking about taste profile. We're speaking about when you're marketing your product, sometimes you have to target the various groups because there are about 11 TV stations. The Javanese have a station, the Chinese have their station. The Indians have their own radio station, and which Hindustan is spoken on the station. So that my understanding from feedback from companies was that a number of companies failed on entry into the market because they didn't understand the market dynamics. They didn't properly analyze the market, so that they bust early on entry into the market. So it's critical to analyze the groups and determine which segments you're going to target, or one or two or all. And of course, if your product needs to be modified or packaging needs to be improved to service that market, the taste is another issue. You have the Chinese flavor, you have the Javanese who have their own cuisine, and then of course the Indians and the Africans. So that it was mentioned, the same applies to Guyana, where it's cheaper to advertise in the, on television per spot as opposed to the newspaper. But the question begs, who's your target? Because it could be as expensive because you need to be represented in all of these newspapers or TV stations. Then you also have competition from the cable. Some people not even watching local stations. And the US having the free advantage of free advertising. So they always one of the top 3, top 4 as an exporter to in all of our segments. But let me just add, the US is the leading exporter in general to the market, followed by Trinidad and Tobago, but it represents primarily goods that we do not manufacture, machinery, equipment. They also supply meats, inputs into the chemical industry and so on. So it's not necessarily within the segments that we represent. So ideally, we could say Trinidad and Tobago is market leader outside of those highly industrialized items. Okay. Sorry. Okay, moving along. So talking about advertising and promotion, just to go back a bit, so it would be a bit difficult, and the company needs to determine who's their target in terms of where they will focus their advertising, but point of sales is a good option. Advertising at the point of sales. You're promoting, you're bundling, and so on at the actual point of sale. 90% of retailers in the market are Chinese. And the Chinese, they are aggressive. They're passive, but they're aggressive in terms of wanting to own and operate businesses. The Javanese, on the other hand, are more friendly type of people. They do not necessarily own a lot of businesses outside of the food businesses, but they're involved in service. A lot of the workers are involved in the mining sector or some support service to the mining sector. And then outside of that, you have the other services. You have teachers and the range of other service areas. The Chinese community, it's 90% Chinese, and as a result, they prefer to deal with Chinese so that the network is locked. So I remember talking to one exporter, and he mentioned, we chose a Chinese distributor in order to benefit from the network. However, if there is a demand for your product, they would certainly buy your products. Difficulties to secure laborers for the low-income jobs. And I mean, we have a major problem in Trinidad. Companies complaining they prefer to work in government projects for a short time as opposed to, working in the manufacturing sector and developing a skill. In Suriname, the low-end laborers come in from countries such as Guyana, Brazil, and Haiti. Okay, we now turn to supermarkets. So we have two types of supermarkets. We have on one hand Combi, the Combi market, which services the low end, which would be the masses. Combi, if you haven't been to Suriname and you visit Suriname, you must visit the Combi market. It's a hybrid between the traditional market and the supermarket, so that on the outside you have your fruits, your vegetables on your traditional market wooden shelves, and on the inside you have the products, wide range of products available. Of course, the margins are quite low, which would attract the low income. The presentation is not premium, of course, right? They're wooden shelves, but you literally can't walk in the supermarket, and it's extremely large. This picture, just to give you a sense as to what it looks like. However, on the other hand, you have the Choice, the Tulips, and Bestmart, which targets the high income. So you would see a wider range of international brands available in those supermarkets. There is also, outside of these high-end supermarkets and Combi, you have a proliferation of Chinese supermarkets opening up, and very large. And within that market, there's not necessarily supermarket chains as such, but Choice, however, they have 2 branches. We've been advised that money laundering is a bit more structured compared to Guyana. In Suriname, for example, within one block, you may have 3 large supermarkets having little return, and they're going to open another close by. All right? So just to give you a sense as to what is happening on the ground. Okay, so we look at market access issues. When you're selling your product to the market, it must not be a minimum of 6 months from expiration. You're allowed to have your language. It could either be Dutch or English. There the government of Suriname had implemented a pre-inspection, shipment inspection facility project where before you export to the market, it must be inspected by their contracted provider within your country, and then you're certified to export to the market. And this was a bit onerous for exporters, and CARICOM raised it. It was raised at the CARICOM level, and Suriname was advised that according to WTO regulations, there need to be formal notification before you implement such a project, so that the Surinamese government agreed to have it suspended. So it's no longer in place at this time. VAT is paid by the importer. There's no reimbursement arrangement like, well, what we supposed to used to be, because that's going to change given our budget, and so that the cost is passed on to the consumer. There is a basket of goods that is regulated within the market. And I try to list here the products that Trinidad and Tobago exports: flour, laundry detergent, tissue. We have others like salt and tea and oil and sugar, sardines, red beans, among others. The intent here is to ensure that the prices of basic goods are affordable within the market, so that they are very strong consumer organizations. We met with two, so that they would lobby government to ensure that their demands are met within the market. The government met with the key importers, the relevant importers and manufacturers, to ask them to lower so that they'll agree to lower their margins by between 5 to 10% in order to facilitate a lower retail price. It does not directly affect the exporter. However, it indirectly affects the exporter, because if the price is regulated in the market, this is the selling price. It will create challenges for you to raise your prices when your raw materials go up, because it's regulated in the market. The average markup, it's for distributors between 10 to 20%, and this band is that wide because of that whole same system of regulation in the market for some goods. And for wholesaler, 20%, and the retailer, 20 to 25%. So for Suriname, we're going to look at the products we evaluated in the market. And we start off with beverages. The largest exporters to the market, Holland is almost 50%. That's large. Followed by TNT, so we are represented almost 20%, 1/5 of the market. And this is not the market, this is really of imports into the market, because you have local production as well. And the US, 10%. The major players, they're Rodisa and Fernandez. They are both conglomerates. Rodisa is like Ansa-Macal, a diverse range of companies. Fernandez is the same. Fernandez, they are the bottlers for Coke in the market, and they produce a number of other products, as well as they're also in the service industry. We had an opportunity to visit the plant, the beverages plant, Rodisa's beverages plant, and I was really impressed. I had an opportunity to visit Jalil in Trinidad, and I can tell you it's no different in terms of scale and scope of operation. And they produce complementary products, the juice, the water, among others. And they prepared, even in the market, with their trucks passing, they prepared to sell one case on the way. So they ensuring that they maintain market share. The two photos here are from two Rodisa brands, More, which is a juice, a nectar, and Juice-Lee, which is a juice drink. Some of the information on the packaging could be a bit misleading. And I just circled, it says they are natural, 100% natural. And you may take it that it's 100% juice. But a nectar is between 25 to 99% juice, so it could have 27% juice, right? So the idea is for you, the consumer, to pick it up thinking you're purchasing a 100% juice. Similarly, the juice drink, it says real juice. A juice drink, it's essentially what we make at home. We take some juice, we squeeze a lime, and we put sugar and water, so we make a juice drink. A little bit of juice, plenty water. That's what a juice drink is. A juice drink is between 1 to 24% juice content, and they put on it real juice. I think they really want to say that it's real juice and not artificial, like some of the other, like Tampico, among others. But it could be a bit misleading, so you have to be very careful when you're purchasing beverages. Right. These photos is to give you a sense of the size of the drinks market in Suriname. We were blown away. I mean, there are aisles dedicated to each juice segment. So you have an aisle dedicated to soft drinks, you have a full aisle dedicated to carton drinks, you have a full aisle 100% juice, and a full aisle dedicated to energy drinks. And there are 26 energy drinks in the market. So we were like, and we were advised that this does not just service local consumers, but because of the mining sector, there are a lot of expats in the country. So it also services the visitors to the market. What was interesting as well was the diverse range of flavors that Coca-Cola and Pepsi carried. Cherry, grape, I mean, things we don't see. I mean, you would see in Suriname products, you wouldn't see in any other CARICOM market. And again, because of that European link, as well as direct link with the US. We also saw, which is not common on this side of CARICOM, we saw Asian drinks. And that is just a collage pulled together to give you a sense as to the different types of Asian artificial drinks in the markets. They're coming from places apart from China, like Philippines and Thailand, right? So just to give you a sense as to what's happening in the market. Similarly, the water market, there are over 11 brands of water in the market, and this includes spring water. They also have local spring water, and they have about 3 local producers of water. The items here, the items listed at the top, they're all spring water, including this one. All of the others are natural water. And you see, we have Viva in there. Right, we took a lot of photos on Trinidad and Tobago's products, but they're not presented here because we needed to compare the prices with the competition. That kind of feedback we would share with the companies one-on-one because of our time constraints here. So we can say about the beverages market, highly competitive, overly saturated. However, we are dominant in the flavored water segment. So essentially it tells us in order to have an advantage, there needs to be some kind of innovation. We still enjoy our logistical advantage, proximity, weekly shipments. We have low energy cost, and they say of us up the islands, you know, we have subsidized rates for manufacturing. And we have the benefit of the tourist market, so it's not just the 566 or the total population, but we have the diaspora market as well. And of course, we have duty-free access into the market. But drinks, it's a high, fast-moving product. However, the volumes are relatively low, so not necessarily so attractive. We move to cleaning chemicals. Trinidad and Tobago is the leading supplier of chemicals to the market, followed by Holland and the USA. And the two major suppliers in the market are NV Consolidators and HJ Group. The HJ Group produce under the name Chemco. The subsidiary is Chemco. The HJ Group is also a conglomerate, amalgamation of companies. NV Consolidated, some of you would have seen in our local market, the Ozone brand. They're doing quite well. They were successful in penetrating Trinidad and Tobago. And they are the dominant producers of the full range of chemicals within Suriname. Chemco, on the other hand, they produce the full range of chemicals as well, but they say that their Jav bleach was the leading brand. Just as soap powder is the breeze, they said Jav was the bleach. However, they lost significant market share because the plant was down for quite a while. They've now re-entered lower market share, and they're trying to build market share again, so they're bundling in terms of promotions. But they are also seeking, and this is a pitch for companies in that sector, they're also pitching for investment because the actual equipment is quite old, so they're looking for a JV partner who would be willing to invest in the company. And they claim that right now they're able to produce 3 million liters per year. So these are the two local players. Suriname is a powdered soap market. And you can see the aisles dedicated to powdered soap. Again, Ozone is the dominant player. Breeze from Trinidad and Tobago, Unilever is also represented there. Sun from the US is also in that market. There is a huge market for bleach, and you can see the range of brands available, and you see Clorox also differentiating with their squirt caps, just to highlight the innovations related to the packaging of bleach. However, Trinidad and Tobago is still dominant. I mean, there are companies from Trinidad who produce an economy brand as well as a premium brand. And even with their premium brand, they're still cheaper than any of the other products in Suriname. So this picture is just from one supermarket where we saw lots shelf space dedicated to Trinidad and Tobago's products, and this was evident in other supermarkets as well. Disinfectants. Trinidad and Tobago is not necessarily visible in this segment. Again, key players, Ozone. Fabuloso is a Colgate-Palmolive brand, and this is coming from Mexico. And you have Mr. which is a Unilever brand produced in the DR. They are the major players in the market. And what I noticed as well in the Combe market, there was one packaging for some of them, and when you go to the high-end supermarkets, high-end packaging for some of these companies. So for cleaning chemicals, yes, TNT dominant because of our powder soaps, thanks to the multinational, Unilever, and bleach. And I might say that bleach powdered soap rather, is also used in the mining sector, which I believe my colleague would have alluded to earlier. Again, we have the strategic advantages, logistics, duty-free, and our prices for this segment outside of the other cleaning chemicals, bleach in particular, is highly competitive. Again, I just want to mention the local company looking for a joint venture partner. And in order for us to advance in this market, there needs to be an aggressive marketing campaign, promotions, giveaways. You know, like they say about Guyana, the Guyanese market likes free things. Similarly, we need to give giveaways or something, give something extra in order to get the products moving. And after they've experienced the product, perhaps they may try it again. And this is particularly for the areas where we're not as competitive, and that is for the disinfectants, the fabric softener, and the dishwashing liquid. Okay, pasta. Interestingly, the leading supplier is Asian, Vietnam, followed by Holland, and we sit somewhere in there, a small market for Trinidad and Tobago. But this picture, it's not very clear, but it's to highlight the local production as it relates to noodles. And Shirley alluded to the bottom of house production facilities for noodles. Huge market with services, not just the Chinese, but the Javanese also use a lot of noodles as well. This image is just to highlight the wide range of foreign pasta in the market. Like beverages, I was really taken aback to see the aisles dedicated to a variety of imported pasta. And of course, you have the Chinese cups, right, and Chinese packets of instant soups with pasta as well. And this is just a sample of some of the products in the market. So pasta, again, highly competitive market, large segment for noodles, which would be difficult for us to compete, brand development, promotion, pricing strategy. So we need to look at our pricing if we want to expand business in that market. Sauces and condiments. Leading suppliers, Holland, followed by Trinidad and Tobago, and the US, Thailand is also there. And when you go down the list, you have several other Asian suppliers. The intent here is to highlight some of the Holland brands. This is the leading Holland brand. And when you look at some of the other packaging, real high-end compared to what we currently supply. This is a unique packet, bottle of extra large ketchup, a specialty bottle. This is from Superior out of Holland. And then you have Remia, which uses the cling wrap packaging, similar to the Lucozade, kind of the new Lucozade packaging. And then when we look at the local supplier, one of the local suppliers, which is Interfoods, they carry an economy ketchup, delicious, but they also carry a premium ketchup, which is differentiated by packaging. We don't differentiate our premium ketchups by packaging. It's more so differentiated by price. So we're talking about the differentiated cultural differences, market characteristics in Suriname. Quality packaging is important. Ketchup, the market consumes huge volumes of ketchup, and this photo is just to illustrate a stand with ketchup alone. And you also have the tomato paste, where the market is prone to using glass bottles. However, in the market, we've seen our local suppliers, along with Grace out of Jamaica, providing the ketchup in the sachets, as we're accustomed to in Trinidad. But it's primarily, dominantly, bottles. Tomato paste, however, it's packaged premium in a toothpaste type tube in the box, just like a toothpaste. The paste actually comes, and some of them, they come from countries like Austria, out of Europe, and from the US as well. Trinidad and Tobago is also quite visible. We've seen our full range, the both economy and premium range of ketchups within the market. I met with a lady who picked up one of our brands, and I asked her why she took that one. And she said she liked the flavor. It's sweet compared to the Heinz, which is a bit more acid. Okay, so. And of course, we have the traditional US brands represented, the Kraft, the Hunt's, and the Heinz. And what was noteworthy was that in some supermarkets, the only brand of barbecue that was available was Kraft. So shelf space looking like that tomato stand, only Kraft barbecue sauce. Dominant player in the barbecue segment. So this is something our sauces companies need to look at. We have quite a few producers of barbecue sauces in Trinidad. And then they have a range of variants, but one of the outstanding ones was the coleslaw sauce. So it's mixed already, so you just use it with your cabbage, just throw it in and mix it. This is not something we have in Trinidad. Pepper sauce was not very visible on the shelves, although they use a lot of pepper, especially the Javanese, hot food like Trinidad. However, when you purchase a takeaway meal, if you like, you will get your pepper sauce in a small sachet or a little container, locally made pepper sauce, and it looks like it's mixed with ketchup, actually. Yeah, it's kind of different. The blend is different from what we are accustomed to. So yes, there's pepper sauce in the market, but not as visible. Huge shelf space is dedicated to peanut butter, and you see the variety of brands available. And this can be alluded to the Javanese peanut sauce, right, which is used on their meats. And you see a lot of jams and jellies as well. You have companies who even have private labels, Pacifico in particular, coming out of Asia, providing jams and jellies to service the local economy. So as it relates to sauces and condiments, we enjoy brand awareness. We have relatively high market share for the exporters to the market. However, we need to innovate in terms of our product range, diversify our product range. Packaging, we can improve our packaging because we stand up against the best in terms of presentation, Europe, in the market. And certainly growth is possible in this segment. Because of the limited time in the market, we weren't able to do a complete overview of all of the products. 1 week is a short time. And I can tell you, we would have full days of meetings, and when we get back, the team would sit for maybe 3-4 hours every night to compile the information. So it was not a joyride. So I'm going to just share a brief on some of the other products. Yeah. For tissue products, TNT, leading exporter to the market, we're visible, but not as visible as the local players who are dominant. So Mexico follows, Holland, China, USA. The local supplier is Shenglong, and they boast no foreign company can compete with them in the local market. They hold 60 to 70% of local market share. They also produce, only 3 months ago, they started producing Pampers and adult Pampers for babies and adult Pampers as well. So they're interested in entering to Trinidad. If there's anybody who might be interested in representing them. So this segment, highly competitive. Snacks, the main key suppliers are from countries like Costa Rica, Turkey. Trinidad is represented in there, Holland, and the USA. Whilst there is a local producer who is the dominant player, Fernandez, in terms of the snack range, and I mentioned earlier that they're a conglomerate. They're the ones who hold the bottled Coke in the market, so they produce a diverse range of products. So they're the main players for snack products. Trinidad and Tobago is second in line, which is not bad. The chocolates, our local chocolates and confectionery is less visible, but we've seen our products in the market. And sweet biscuits, yes, we've seen our products in the market, but the major competitors are from Costa Rica with the Noel brand of biscuits. And this Noel is associated with Christmas, so they have big promotions with their range at Christmas time. Frozen foods, someone asked about frozen foods. There's a growing demand for frozen foods in this market. Ice cream, interestingly less visible. There were only 2 major players, Nestle and the local same Fernandez again. Previously, Suriname had an electricity outage problem, so that this may have been one of the reasons why companies failed to invest in this area. But they're now more open to growth within this segment. Construction, in terms of paints, the largest operator on the ground, it's Historics, and they have French investment, French interest, and this is followed by the HJ Group. This is the same company who is looking for an investor for the same conglomerate. They're looking for an investor for the bleach. And they've mentioned there's competition from companies like Kaleidoscope and Berger from Trinidad. Lumber, as you might know, they are one of the largest suppliers of lumber. I see some people writing, you're getting a more comprehensive report, which would be made available to you. Lumber, they're one of the largest suppliers of lumber. However, investors, and these are primarily Chinese investors who come in and they benefit from the concession. They buy the lumber, export it to China, and re-export the finished products to, of course, not just Suriname, but other markets. So they have an advantage. So it's sometimes a challenge even for the local producers. And within the furniture sector, there has been challenges. One company told us that sometimes there's not continuity in terms of, for example, you have an adult running the company. When it's time for him to hand over, his children not prepared to continue the business. So the furniture sector of itself is dying. Notwithstanding, we met 2 companies who produce high-end, high-quality furniture utilizing both local and foreign materials so that the sector is still vibrant in the market. So there will be a challenge for us to export in some of the areas as it relates to the furniture sector. There is a company who's looking for investment in for their clay brick factory. They export the product, it's ISO certified. And again, it's all equipment, and they're looking for partners. So that if there's an interest, we could provide you with further information. I sought to highlight here some of the projects that are currently underway within Suriname. The government has provided a 7% interest rate to facilitate new homeowners, as well as those who are completing repairs to their homes. And there are a number of other projects, for example, piling projects, several major bridges that are currently being constructed within the market, and pipeline and tank overhauls. Energy services. Yes, we were able to get an energy service meeting, and they told us that Trinidad and Tobago is one of the major players in the market as a service provider, as well as for them, 90% of their lubricants and diesels, lubricants and fuels are imported from Trinidad and Tobago. They are, however, trying to secure companies who can provide waste management services. They have a provider, but they want to complement that provider. Waste management services, and we will be able to provide a little more detail on that one-on-one with companies who might be interested. The company is also interested in sourcing coolants and break bulk fluids other than from NP because of contractual agreements they currently have in place. So generally, feedback on products from Trinidad and Tobago. We've had a lot of feedback on specific products, which we'd share with you one-on-one. But in terms of new opportunities, a prominent distributor is looking for a company who has a diversified range of products. They're looking for a distributor, and we can assist in creating that link if you're not already in the market. In the previous slide, I spoke about the energy products and services of interest, and the bleach and clay factory who's looking for investment. And the next point came from not just the Manufacturers Association, but other players in the market also mentioned that they'd like to see a more mutual benefit agreement in terms of projects going forward between both economies. And they want to develop the agro-processing sector, so they're looking for funding and technical assistance to assist in that regard. So in conclusion, competition from Europe, and we may speak primarily to Holland, Eastern Europe, some of the smaller countries who can provide lower-end products, and Italy, among others, and wider Europe. One local chemical company said to me that they are dumping chemicals from Europe into Suriname in order to maintain market share. And they're dumping, some of them are dumping low-quality products. As I mentioned before, future initiatives should look at joint venture arrangements. We do maintain an advantage to many of the other suppliers to the market, as was alluded to earlier, our logistical advantage, proximity, weekly shipments, our cost of energy, our pricing, and access to their tourism market, and the whole duty-free arrangement that is in place allows us duty-free access to the market. And again, we need to analyze the market in order to be effective, and we need to develop our brands, support our brands, and ensure continual market visits. The companies who are successful from Trinidad and Tobago, they are well represented on the ground. We have one company who has a representative who services both markets. He's based in Guyana, so he moves between both markets. And of course, you could see his products properly placed on the shelves. Jaleel distributes their own products in the market. I mean, they're competing against big players, and they're doing relatively well, because when we look at the shelves, you see that their products are actually moving, especially, for example, the chubby and the small juices. So that in order to be successful in the market, you need to support your distributor, you need to make visits to the market in order to grow your business. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.